If you want to get better at drawing caricatures and cartoon portraits like I do, I've been drawing people for over 10 years, and in this video I'm going to show you some of my method, but I'm going to do it from a photo so that you can follow along. This time I'm drawing the famous art teacher Bob Ross. Okay, here we go on this next one. I'm just going to draw basic shapes that I feel like I see. That's it. That's my sketch. Now let's see what I can do with it. I'm going to start with the eyes. I'm seeing some straight angles in the eyes, so I'm trying to get those in there, and the pupils. At least in this photo, they look dark to me, so I'm going to do my dark pupil style, where I draw the pupil and then put the highlight inside the pupil. And then I add a shadow under the eyelid. Eyebrow. And something I always look at is the negative space under the eyebrow, or between the eye and the eyebrow. All right, exactly. Okay, got this wrinkle in between his eyes. Now this is a straightforward view. I usually draw people looking at a 3/4 view, and that's what I'm used to drawing. But if I always draw what I'm used to drawing, then I'm going to get stuck. In other words, I am going to not grow as an artist, so I have to get out of my comfort zone and draw different things. And I know that seems weird if I'm saying the straightforward view is very odd for me to draw, because it seems like the most normal view. But because I draw at events, I always give people a target to look at, and I tell them, look this way, or look at this point on the wall, or look at that tree over there. And then I draw like 50 to 100 people like that, and I do that 99 to 100 times a year. So I get so used to drawing people at one angle that I can do it super fast and do a great job, but then drawing them from a different angle is difficult. So I don't want to get stuck and stagnate as an artist, so I've got to keep trying to draw different stuff and push myself, because that's how I like to do it. I've actually met artists who, once they are able to draw a caricature, they say, okay, I can do it now, and they don't practice anymore, or they don't try to get any better. And they kind of do great in their careers, or some of them do. They do a lot of events and draw a lot of people, but their drawings from 5 years ago look exactly like their drawings today, or their drawings from 10 years ago look exactly like their drawings today. And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but I've got to grow. I've got to see progress, because I never feel like I'm drawing as good as I could be drawing. Okay, now the thing about the nose is I immediately identify this as a wide nose. And so the way I do that is I look at the outside of the nostril and I draw an imaginary line up. And the average nose is going to line up with the tear duct. I mean, the outside of the nostril will line up with the tear duct, but these nostrils, if you follow an imaginary line up, it comes all the way out to here somewhere. So that's wide. I can draw it exactly as I see it, or since I know it's wider than average, I can draw it wide, like way out here. So that is like sort of one of the hidden keys that I look for when I'm drawing. Now, I don't exaggerate very much when I'm drawing at events because I feel like I'm giving them a souvenir that they really want to keep. But if I'm drawing like to show off on Instagram or something like that, then I might exaggerate it a lot more just for the fun of it. And I did exaggerate this, but not very much. So if you look in the photograph, it kind of lines up, his true nostril lines up like this. And then I've pushed it out just a little bit. So, and now with the mustache, let's see what I'm going to do. I want to kind of go very cartoony, and so I'm going to do it not as hairs, but as shape. And I'll fill in the hairs. That's kind of what I consider cartoony, is it's based on a shape and not the individual hairs, like the mustaches. One solid shape. And his mouth is wide too. I'll show you what I mean by that. The average mouth, there's many art books that will show you how to draw a perfectly average head and the proportion of the features. And if you look, the corner of the mouth usually lines up perfectly with the middle of the pupil. So if you look at this photo, the corner of his mouth actually goes beyond the pupil, and it's like to the edge of the iris and even beyond. And so if I wanted to, I could identify his mouth as wide because those points line up wider than the average, and then I could just decide to just make his mouth way out here if I wanted to. So that's another one of those hidden points that I look for when I'm deciding how to exaggerate someone. Alright, and then the teeth, I'm just going to do the very basic teeth, is I'm going to, just lines, but I'm going to let them disappear and then reappear. It gets so thin that it disappears, then thicken it back up. And that's just a super simple way to do teeth. It's not very detailed, but this is like a quick and easy sketch. Now he's got like a crease line here. It disappears, and another one over here. Alright, now let's get out the big marker. And this is a Tombow. Let me bring this one back. I forgot to tell you. This is one of my favorite markers recently. It is a Zebra extra fine. It's a disposable brush pen. And I get the extra fine lines for the eyes, nose, and mouth from this pen. And now I'm using the Tombow, and look at that. Look at the size difference between the two nibs. This one I can get thin lines, and obviously this one is huge. So I can get thin lines with this if I'm careful, but I can definitely get thick lines with it. Okay, so on his beard, I'm seeing two separate shapes. His chin shape, part of the beard, and then the outside. They're almost two separate things. So I'm going to draw the chin first as a shape. In this case, I'm going to start here from the eyebrow. Just draw the brow line, cheek line, and then we're going to put a beard on there. Same thing on this side. Just letting it disappear because the hair is obscuring that jawline a little bit. Sideburn hair. You can just see the edge of an ear here. Alright. Now we're going to do the big curly hair. And one thing I'm looking at is where it connects down here, because I think on my sketch I drew his hair too high. So I'm literally looking at the photo and then drawing an imaginary line across. It looks like his hair connects with the beard around by the mouth. So I'm going to bring this shape down to here. And here's another thing that I learned. One of the trainers when I worked at Disney World showed me is when you're doing curly bumpy stuff is vary the size of these curves. So I'm doing a small one, a huge one, a couple of small ones, a big one, one small one, maybe a mid-size one. I'm trying to keep it varied. I hope I don't go too far off the camera, but I'm just adding the neck on there. Okay, so there's several different ways to do curls, and I've never really done it the way I'm about to do it, but I did it a couple times in practice and I think it worked out pretty good, and so here we go. I'm just doing very simple curls and trying to vary the size of the curls and just moving on around. There used to be this little toy way back in the 70s or early 80s. I forget what it's called, but it's like this little piece of plastic and you put your pencil in it and swirl it around on a paper and it created these patterns. So that if anybody can remember what that toy was called, please leave it in the comments. Okay, now we're going to finish the beard. And I'm just adding in just some beard lines. Now remember, this is the simple way to draw. You can always take hours and draw something with much more detail and style, but for a quick and easy practice drawing, this is not too bad. So there he is, that's Bob Ross. He is the OG of art tutorials.